Well, good morning on a Saturday. And on this bright Saturday morning where the sun is shining, let's talk about darkness and, yeah, the meaning of darkness and eternal darkness and what it means to have dark emotions and what it means to be plagued by darkness and what can one do if you know, like you've experienced a lot of darkness in your life. And I'm certainly no different than anyone else. I don't know, better or worse in terms of having had my fair share of dark experiences, which I won't share because some of them are deeply personal. Um, but I've also been someone who's kind of like shined the light on a lot of these different pieces of my life in order to try and better understanding life, in order to better understand, excuse me, life, other people, my own human experience, and more than that, just like the patterns of my emotions that might come from these, darker and deeply moving and even sometimes disturbing emotions that I can have. And I just to qualify, I don't have any answers. I'm speaking to this topic not as any kind of professional, but as more as another layperson looking for answers and also trying to examine myself and examine what I see going on around me in order to find those answers, none of which are conclusive, right? But, you know, as mental health and things like depression and suicide are constantly in the news, it behooves me to think about my own experience with these things and also to just look at this. I know a lot of people, and I know a lot of different people. I know rich and poor people, I know black and white people, I know gay and straight people, I know older and younger people. And I'm always looking for these common threads of humanity. And everybody's got darkness, everybody's had pain that they've either like dealt with or are still dealing with. And I think that's going to be the human experience forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. But it's interesting because it's funny. I'm like a sort of a very high energy, light kind of person who often attracts, probably in a sort of yang opposites kind of way, people who are a little more dark. And when I say dark, they're people who have had trouble with darker emotions, have been plagued more consistently over their lifetime with darker emotions, have gotten in trouble. They've either had, a lot of dark and negative feelings. They've had some maybe violence perpetrated upon them, or they have been, people who have been angry, and I've tried to find like these patterns of how people behave, what they do, what they think, what they believe, that seems to feed this darkness. And, one of the things that I believe is like what goes in must go out, what goes down must go up, must come down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's like this equal opposite balance thing. And what I find with a lot of dark people is a couple of things. There's like a lot of blame. There's a lot of this like focus on the outside, like that people are doing things to them. Um, there's a lot of people that tend to have dark emotions, love shit like horror movies, conflict and drama TV. They tend to watch a lot of TV and not like TV. Like they watch documentaries on serial killers and murder mysteries, and those things are fascinating. But what's really funny is like how much can I allow my mind to absorb stuff like that without it affecting the way I perceive my life or my outlook on life, right? So I don't have television, I don't watch TV, funny or serious. And, I ingest the news when something really interests me because there's a topic that I think I can benefit from. And yeah, sometimes the topic is dark and sometimes the topic is light. But there's this thing about energy, and I can't soak in and not let out. Because the other thing with a lot of people is they don't necessarily, and again, I'm thinking of a couple of people that I've known in my past life who are really dark. And there's a very, what I also find in common with a lot of these people is there's a cynicism and there's a sort of a like keeping themselves at bay and guarded. So it's like their dark emotions can never be let out. They can't let anybody know about them. They often walk through the world smiling. And I think to myself, what is that? Because of course, at first I'm like, well, you're not being true to yourself. Like you're not really happy, and you're walking through the world smiling like you're happy all the time. I don't think it's that simple, right? But anyway, it's just, the blame, the ingesting media that's really dark, and guarding secrets seem to be common themes. And so I think to myself, well, then what's the antidote, right? Like, how do you learn how to be more open about your feelings? That can be a long, long journey for a lot of people, and it requires really trustworthy partners. Ceasing to blame people, I feel like that's almost even tougher, because I feel like we're in a society that's like constantly pointing fingers. Like, I just watched this ridiculous video about this guy making his kid say she was sorry. It was just so absurd. It was like, I'm watching this and I'm like, this is pure bullshit. Like, it's fucking coddling, and it made me like annoyed. But just all this stuff about how we need to teach people how to have manners, and there's a consequence if you don't have the right manners. Oh, it's so fucking annoying. I can't even stand it. I remember a couple of years ago, I was like running the subway, and there was like all these billboards about like how to be nice to people. And I'm like, I don't know, since when did like the MTA become my fucking mother, right? Anyway, that's a little aside here. It's just a little New Yorker that the MTA is teaching me manners and respect. Anyway, enough said. So the point being, though, is like, what is the antidote? I don't know. Letting things out, catharsis. What goes in if you're gonna ingest deep dark stuff. You got to be able to let it out also, and then really just I'm sure a lot of this is also things that I have no clue about and don't understand. But anyway, there's my 2 cents on the subject. If you care to hear it, if you're interested, and if you have any thoughts about the subject, your own darkness or others, be sure to comment so other people can benefit from what you know and have learned. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for the time today. Have a good weekend.